Hi, my name is Maya Hunt, and as a part of my 20% Time project, I will be interviewing Calvin Acker about his childhood. To start things off, can you tell me a little bit about your first memory you've had? Hi, my name is Maya Hunt, and as a part of my 20% Time project, I will be interviewing Calvin Acker on his childhood. So, can you tell me about your first childhood memory?
My first childhood memory, it's kind of a tough question. I think my first childhood memory would be trying to ride one of my two golden retrievers when I was a kid and just getting thrown off onto the lawn.
Thrown off onto the lawn. Okay, very cool. So, what else can you tell me about your childhood? What things stick out to you when you think about it?
My childhood was pretty consumed by hanging out with my brothers and our neighbors and just doing whatever they did. I was the youngest one in a group of 5, being my 2 older brothers and the 2 next door neighbor kids who were the same ages as my brothers, respectively. And just trying to hang with the older kids and going swimming, being in the swim team, and riding around the neighborhood and doing whatever they did.
Sounds pretty fun. In terms of education, do you remember the first time that you attended school?
I do believe I went to pre-K, a little kind of daycare pre-K, and then continued school from there.
Have you ever attended a private school?
I have. I assume that my pre-K was a private school, and then I continued attending private schools up until 2nd grade when I moved and switched into public schools in the Shoreline School District.
All right. And financially, have you ever had to get a job in order to support your family?
I have not had an official on-the-books job to support my family.
So, have you ever played any violent video games when you were younger, or still do?
I have dabbled in the arena.
Dabbled in the arena, meaning you have played violent video games a lot, a little, or what?
I have played some violent video games.
Do you remember how young you were when you started playing them?
Probably middle school.
And was that your first real encounter with violence, or what other sources had attributed violence to your life?
I do not think that was my first experience with violence. I think that as a young boy growing up with brothers, there was a lot of mock violence in the forms of wrestling and Nerf guns and airsoft guns, and the older you get, the faster the toy guns shoot, so I think I've had plenty of experience with mock violence.
How about real life violence, like shooting and real war? When was your first time with exposure to that?
If you're referring to like legitimate footage and like raw footage of violence and stuff like that,
It could also be from a movie or something like that.
probably a similar time, if not earlier. I think I was aware of and had heard of and read the statistics behind, but not really seen like raw war footage a while before then. But my parents could not allow me to get behind a device to allow me to take part in that in the form of video games.
Do you think your parents taking that action has positively affected you?
I think that my parents based that decision off of the many articles that have been published on how video games can cause violent tendencies in kids, which, to my personal research, have been null and void. But I think that that the violence throughout the world is something that I'll have to know about for all of my life, and something I'll have to, in modern days, worry about interacting or happening in my life. And so I think keeping that out of my life for as long as possible to a reasonable point is probably good, because I think it helped me to, I don't know, stay pure for longer.
So it seems like you've had a pretty great childhood.
I would agree with that statement.
What are your plans for post-high school?
I plan to attend a 4-year university and do some traveling, as well as possibly applying to be in the Peace Corps.
Very cool. Do you feel like you matured too quickly or too slowly at any point?
Yes and no. I think that I had a unique experience in traveling and doing some study abroad after my freshman year, which had me living on my own in an indigenous village in Ecuador. And I think that I matured pretty quickly while I was over there, just because I was on my own in a pretty extreme way for the first time. And so I think that was probably a quick maturing, but I don't think that was too fast, because I thought that was a good experience.
Okay, we're gonna switch topics a little bit here. I want to ask you what you know about children and violence in the Middle East.
I am aware that for a very long time, pretty much after the Soviet invasion of Afghanistan, and probably for a lot longer than that, there has been a pretty constant amount of violence in the Middle East, and I am aware that this is kind of a total war, in that a lot of people are involved, including kids at a young age, and that this is not just a problem in the Middle East, but in many other impoverished places of the world.
Are you aware of any of the effects that violence in this war has had and will continue to have on children in the Middle East?
I could not cite a specific effect, but I could imagine that they are horrific and include post-war traumas and just a number of issues.
Ending war is not a possible feat for one human being, but what do you think you can do here in Washington, in America, to help those children in the Middle East?
Another tough question. I think that in the U.S., we as citizens have an opportunity to use our voices to petition the government and try to achieve changes. And I think that encouraging or joining a group that encourages the end of U.S. involvement in some of these Middle Eastern countries could be good, or at least in working towards the end of those conflicts is a good option, and trying to encourage the government to start working on uh, relief projects to get the countries back on their feet following the U.S. Um, withdrawal.
Those sound like some really great ideas. Thank you for your time. It was a pleasure speaking with you.
Yep. Was a